This soldier has woken up in a mysterious cube with no way out, but he has no idea that he only has a few hours to escape to avoid a gruesome death. A soldier named Miles Willis and his captain Dorian are fighting their way through an active war zone, when suddenly, Dorian gets shot in the neck. Miles observes his captain but quickly realizes that there is nothing he can do. He continues running, but right as he is about to make it out of the area, he gets shot in the stomach as well. As he lays on the ground suffering from his wound, he notices projectiles flying in the air. He observes what is possibly the last sight he will ever see, but suddenly one of the projectiles starts flying toward him and glowing really bright. Miles screams, and then he passes out. Next, Miles wakes up in the middle of a giant square room. He is perplexed by his surroundings and inspects the strange walls, but then his wound starts bleeding. He falls to the ground and screams for a medic, but no one answers. He takes out his own first aid kit and cleans and bandages the wound. He grabs his radio and tries to contact his base, but gets no answer. Just then, he looks up and sees that the word "abandon" has appeared on one of the walls. He becomes confused and starts shouting, asking whoever is doing this to let him out. Next, he sees that words are appearing all over the place. One tile on the ground reads, "Save thy sinner souls," and next to "abandon" on the wall, the words, "All hope," have appeared. Suddenly, the temperature of the room starts rising. Unable to bear the heat, Miles starts taking his clothes off and pounding on the wall,
Let me out! Let me out!
demanding to be released. The room gets so hot that when his sweat falls to the ground, it boils. Miles starts panicking, thinking he's died, and this is hell. He grabs his gun and shoots at the wall to no avail, and then eventually the heat gets so high that he passes out. After some time, Miles wakes up. Still burning up, he tries to drink some water, but suddenly, he and his stuff are flung in every direction, as if the entire cube is rotating. When the commotion finally stops, Miles notices something strange. The "Abandon all hope" message is now on the ground, which means that the cube has changed orientation. But somehow, his canteen and gun are still stuck to the roof. He starts freaking out and tries to convince himself that this is all just a nightmare. He grabs the radio again and desperately tries to contact someone.
If anybody's listening.
Disheartened upon getting no answer, he is about to put the radio down when suddenly he hears a woman's voice.
He's on the 128.
He tries to tell her that he can hear her, but contact is lost, and he sinks to the floor in despair. He realizes that whatever this cube is, it is refracting the radio signal, but if he uses his satellite phone, he'll probably be able to make contact. This seems like a stroke of genius, until he realizes that his phone is stuck to the roof. He tries to tell the woman on the radio the number of his phone, but he doesn't remember it. He looks at the phone on the roof, which has the number on it, and writes the number down on the floor. Suddenly, the phone starts ringing. Miles desperately tries to reach for the phone, but to no avail. He throws his shoe to get it down, but ends up getting the shoe stuck as well. He clearly never tried to get a ball out of a tree with this trick when he was a kid, or he would have known this would happen. The phone stops ringing. Next, the temperature in the cube starts dropping rapidly, and the walls start freezing. Miles desperately reaches for whatever clothes he can grab and wraps himself up. The clothes are not nearly enough, and he ends up passing out from the cold. The temperature returns to normal, and Miles wakes up shivering. The phone starts ringing again, and Miles gives it the finger. Very mature, soldier. Then the cube starts rotating again, throwing Miles and his stuff all over the place. This time, Miles keeps his eyes on the phone throughout the commotion and manages to grab it. The commotion stops, and Miles reaches for his helmet, which has a picture of his wife and daughter. He uses the phone to call the last number that he received a call from, and after trying for a while, the call connects.
Hello?
Okay, confirmed.
He hears the voice of a woman and assumes that she is the one who is doing this to him. He demands to know why he is here and why she is doing this to him, but she seems to be just as panicked and confused as he is.
Are you coming for me? Are you coming here?
A quick conversation reveals to Miles that she is trapped in a room just like his. She describes that her room is changing temperatures and spinning like a washing machine. But then, she describes something that Miles failed to notice.
No. I can see.
She says that she can see the room. It is illuminated, but she does not see any source of light. Miles realizes that his room is the same way. The light is there, but he does not know where it is coming from. The woman also points out that every time the room spins, something changes. She can't put her finger on what it is, but something does. Miles says he feels the same way. Both Miles and the woman don't trust one another and end up arguing that the other one is doing this to them and trying to get information or something out of them. After a while, they both calm down and realize that they will have to work together. Meanwhile, Miles's gunshot wound starts getting worse. Next, the two start brainstorming who could be doing this to them, and the woman wonders if it's a government experiment. Miles hypothesizes that their cells are probably in close vicinity to each other. They start going over the information that they know. Miles asks where the woman was when this happened, and she says that she was on the highway. Miles says that he was south of the highway. She asks if he was stationed there, and Miles is alarmed.
You just said stationed. How the fuck did you know I was military?
He says that he never told her he was military, so why would she use the word stationed? The woman replies that he just talks like a soldier, and she guessed. Miles is not satisfied, but the woman says that they have to trust each other if they are going to figure this out. She tells him that her name is Damsey. Next, Damsey starts screaming on the phone, and just then, Miles is lifted into the air and stretched out by an invisible force so hard that he screams as well. He falls to the ground and hears Damsey falling on the phone too. He notices his watch, and since he's been timing how often the room spins, he realizes that it is about to do just that. He warns Damsey and tells her to keep an eye out for what changes. He keeps an eye out himself and learns that the room is shrinking every time it spins. Miles starts panicking, and so does Damsey, as they both realize they are trapped in their worst claustrophobic nightmare. Miles's panic attack starts going out of control, and Damsey calms him down. Both of them notice that new inscriptions have appeared on the walls, but they're all in different languages. Miles reads one out, and Damsey points out that it sounds Latin. Next, Miles asks Damsey what was the last thing she saw before she was taken, and like him, she saw a bright light in the sky heading toward her. The conversation continues, and Miles learns that Damsey was in Massachusetts when she was taken, and this shocks him. He tells her that he was in Iraq, and the only way that his satellite phone would connect to her would be if she was there too. Hence, whoever took her brought her to Iraq. She asks why someone would do that to her. She's a nobody. Miles yells out through the walls and asks Damsey if she hears him, and she replies that she doesn't, meaning their rooms aren't next to each other. Then, he asks Damsey how she found the number to his phone, and she tells him that the number was written on the roof of her room. Suddenly, Miles gets another call, and he lies to Damsey that the signal is breaking up and picks it up. He hears a man's panicked voice speaking in Portuguese. He asks the man if he speaks English, and the man talks in broken sentences, saying something about an equation and that they all must die. The call cuts off, leaving Miles in a state of shock. Miles reconnects with Damsey and asks if she sees any equations on the walls of her room. She gets curious where this line of inquiry is coming from, but Miles doesn't tell her. Next, Miles gives up and says that this is all random. There's no connection between them, which explains why they were chosen to be here. They just need to figure out how to get out of here. He and Damsey have a casual conversation which reveals that Damsey is a high school algebra teacher who is engaged to a soldier, but their relationship is struggling because they have nothing in common. Miles reveals that he and his wife aren't on good terms either, and so ends the poor attempt at giving this story some emotional weight. Next, Miles figures out that the numbers written next to the new inscriptions might be years, since they are all 4-digit numbers. The two also discover that both their rooms have the same inscriptions in the same places. Miles notices that one inscription has the year 2007 written next to it and deduces that these are all just tactics to mess with them, because why else would they write a year that is so far in the future? Damsey is shocked by this comment. She asks him what year he thinks it is, and he says that it's 1991. Damsey is stunned. She asks him if he knows what a smartphone or Twitter or Instagram is, and he says he's never heard those words in his life. Lucky guy. Just then, the room starts spinning, and Miles hears a skull-splitting, piercing noise, which causes him to pass out. Next, Miles wakes up, and Damsey tells him that she has figured out what is going on. She tells him that they are occupying the same space, just at different times. She proves it by asking him to draw something on the wall. He draws an X, but before he tells her, she already knows because she sees it in her time. She then sketches an outline of her own hand around the X, and Miles sees it. He cannot believe what is happening. After taking a while to process this, he asks how they could possibly be communicating through time, and she explains that it is possible the signal is bouncing on the smooth surface of the room and traveling through a higher dimension. He doesn't understand, but she says that this is the best he will get from a high school algebra teacher who took a little bit of math and physics in college. Miles reveals that he was a physics prodigy as a kid. If he stared at equations long enough, he would eventually see the answer. Damsey says that is very good-will hunting of him, but it is too early for him to get that reference. He reveals that he never got to pursue physics formally due to some trouble at his home. Next, Damsey says the beings that created this space clearly operate in higher dimensions than humans and have control over time and gravity and who knows what else, so it makes no sense why they would take an interest in humans. Miles deduces that the beings are testing them, testing their physical limits and their sensory abilities. It's why the room gets extremely hot, or extremely cold, or extremely loud from time to time. He lays down exhausted and asks Damsey what the future is like. She tells him all about it. He asks if the military is out of the Middle East yet, and she replies no. He gets sad that the vicious cycle is continuing, just like it did with him and his father, who served in Vietnam and abused him and his mother afterward. Next, Miles grabs his Arabic translation book and realizes that some of the Arabic inscriptions on the floor are not words but mathematical symbols. He writes them out in English, and Damsey realizes that these are the famous equations of Ludwig Schläfli. She says that these equations are about higher dimensions, and they are directly related to what is happening to them. However, they are incomplete. The two begin working on the equations, but someone erases them. Damsey tries to write them out from memory, but just then, an incredibly strong force pulls both Miles and Damsey to the ground, planting them flat against it, till they pass out from the stress. Next, Miles wakes up and gets a call from the Portuguese man again. He tries to tell Miles that he must sacrifice himself, but Miles doesn't understand and cuts the call. He connects with Damsey, and she tells him that as their space is getting smaller, time is going faster too, and the next squeeze will come sooner. Miles says they'll have to solve the equation. Damsey replies that even if she does, how is she supposed to apply it to this room? Miles reveals that when the room spins, gravity doesn't shift, it just gets loose. If they don't panic, they can control it. Hence, they can control the spin of the room. So when they find out the number that is the answer to the incomplete equation, they have to spin the room that many times. Damsey is impressed by his genius, but just then, the lights turn off, and Miles experiences all his worst traumatic memories, such as his dad beating him and his mom, and all the horrors of war he's been through. When he comes to his senses, he learns that Damsey experienced that same thing. She experienced the traumatic memories of her military fiancé beating her. She is enraged and hates Miles because he is another soldier just like her fiancé. She cusses him out and cuts the call. Then, Miles gets a call from the Portuguese man again, and this time he explains that Miles cannot solve the equation because that would make humanity a threat to the aliens. That is what the aliens are trying to judge, and have been doing so for thousands of years. If he sacrifices himself and dies, all of humanity will live. The space starts shrinking again, and it becomes so small that Miles cannot move. He gets a call from Damsey, who has calmed down, and she agrees to solve the equation. The two work together and discover that the answer is 1. Damsey spins the space one time, but it doesn't work. In the corniest plot twist of all time, she realizes that the answer isn't the number 1,
It's mankind as one!
but humanity as one. Only if they unite will they be a threat. She and Miles work together and end up unlocking the space to a higher dimension. They briefly meet each other, and then they are sent back to Earth. Miles wakes up where he was shot and begins walking toward his base. However, he sees drones flying overhead and learns that he has woken up in the future. He arrives at the base and sees all the soldiers looking up at the sky in horror, revealing that the aliens have now deemed humans a threat because of what Damsey and Miles did, and they are beginning their attack. The end. Thank you for watching. Be sure to like our channel and subscribe if you enjoy content like this. Also, let us know what movie you would love us to recap for you.